Hello, so we're going to talk about Brexit.
Brexit is the popular name for Britain's parting with the EU as voted by majority of British voters by a referendum on 23 June. Brexit is a contraction of British exit which describe a British withdrawal of EU cooperation.
The UK cabinet agreed the withdrawal agreement text on 14 November, but there were two resignations, including Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab, and there was an as yet unsuccessful attempt by a Brexiter MPs to force a confidence vote in Theresa May. The next step is for MPs to vote on the deal. If they pass it, the European Parliament will get a vote before Brexit next March. However, the PM postponed a common vote scheduled for 11 December to seek further assurances for MPs about the post-Brexit plan for the Irish border. Downing Street has said it will be rescheduled for 21 January at the latest, although Brexit Minister Robin Walker told MPs he hoped it would be sooner.
Opponents of the EU argued that it's a dysfunctional economic entity. The EU failed to address the economic problems that has been developing since 2008. For example, 20% of unemployment in South Europe. The difference between the lives in Southern Europe and Germans who enjoyed 4.2% unemployment is profound. Europe as a whole has stagnated economically. The argument for remaining in the EU was that the alternative was economic disaster. However, staying in the stagnant organization to solve British problems seems short-sighted and made little sense to opponents.
The second reason for Brexit is the rise of nationalism across the world. There's a growing distrust of multinational financials, trade and defense organizations created after World War II. The EU, the IMF and NATO are good examples of this. Many who oppose the euro believe these institutions no longer serve a purpose. Not only that these organizations take control away from individual nations, mistrust and fear of losing control made Brexit a reasonable solution to them. But for the supporters of the EU, such organizations are self-evidently valuable. They may need to be tweaked but not abandoned.
The immigration crisis in Europe was a trigger. Some EU leaders argued that adding the refuse was a moral obligation, but EU opponents saw immigration as a national issue as it affected the internal life of the country. Steering clear of this issue was an important driver for the Leave vote. EU doesn't understand the power of nationalism. Its attempt to retrain nationality as a cultural right. On the other hand, it deprives individual nations of the power to make many decisions. This may have worked before 2008, but has become an increasingly difficult to accept.
Finally, the political leadership of Britain faced a profound loss. The Leave voters rejected both the Conservative and Labour parties. Both parties had endorsed remaining with the EU and saw many of their members go into opposition on the issue. Ultimately, it was a three-way struggle. Two established parties wanted to remain in the EU, and a third faction drawn from both parties opposed it. People in this third group saw both of the establishment parties as hostile to their interests. This should be considered in the broader sense. The possibility of Brexit frightened financial markets. They said so loudly what they did not grasp was the degree to which they had lost legitimacy in 2008. Most Leave supporters believed that the financial industry recklessness and incompetence had created a disaster for many.
Besides, they saw no benefits to themselves in the success of the financial industry, even though it wasn't true. It's vital to understand that Brexit was a vote against the British elite, voters that politicians, business leaders, and intellectuals had lost their right to control the system.
You can see that England and Northern Ireland they are against leaving EU, but Wales and Scotland want to leave EU. That is the start of the Brexit discussion.
Today, on the 13th December, is the last day to decide whether if they want to leave the EU or not. As it is for now, England is still in for leaving the EU. On Friday, 29th March next year, will UK officially step out of EU. But if they can't decide, they will definitely get out in 2020.